I'm Steph from cheapskatecook.com, and I'm so glad that you're here today because I have a very special interview, a very special surprise for you, and this is my twin! You didn't know I had a twin, did you? I don't, actually. This is my dear friend from childhood, Jessie Fabling, and we're going to have a very important and probably very heavy conversation because a few years ago, Jessie was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I've watched her journey over the last couple of years, and I've been so inspired and encouraged with her light and the joy that she brings to the world, but also the authenticity that she brings to the process. And so, especially when we're talking about saving money and eating healthy, these are very practical aspects of daily life, whether or not you've been diagnosed with something. And Jessie has taught me that they are also very important and very heavy things when you have been diagnosed with something, and you just have to keep those things in mind. And so I thought that I would have a conversation with Jessie, and you guys hopefully will be inspired and encouraged in your journey, whether you are in the midst of some medical issues or whether a loved one is in the midst of some medical issues, and how you can really support them and kind of understand what they're going through and how you can be a positive part of that journey. So thank you so much for joining me, Jessie. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
I would love to hear from you a little bit of your story, just a bird's eye view.
Okay, yeah. So the process. I was diagnosed August of 2017, the beginning of August. I noticed that there was something going on a little bit before that, but there's a process that you go through. And I was diagnosed with invasive lobular carcinoma. And I noticed a change in my right breast. And I was concerned. And I started kind of, the wheels start turning and you're kind of trying to figure out, all right, what's going on here? And it tested positive for estrogen and progesterone, 90% positive for both. So it means that it's hormonally driven. So about, once a month, I would have this reminder of pain, discomfort, that something's not quite right and I need to work on this. And I got to a place where I went to go see a doctor, got, my ducks in a row, and I was like, okay, I found the person I want to go see. And that was January of 17. And that doctor was kind of like foot in the door, OBGYN. It was just the place to start, as I was kind of like, all right, where am I starting it? And he said, I don't think there's anything going on here, but if you'd like, I'll refer you to a specialist. So he did. And I'm so grateful. And you left it up to me. This is your choice. And went to see a specialist, went to UVA. There's a lot going on, like in the diagnosing process. You can get a mammogram, which is standard practice. You can get a biopsy. Now, there's a lot of conflict around mammograms and biopsies, and whether you should or should not do them. It's kind of like a sore subject in certain circles of whether you're in the holistic community or if you're, just kind of doing what the doctor says in standard practice, modern day Western medicine. So for me, it was a mammogram and a biopsy. And I didn't want a biopsy because the older generation, the moms, they were learning in their generation that if you get a biopsy, it could spread. But then I had a specific meeting with a surgeon. I was thinking it was just a cyst. Like, you just go in and take it out. It's like, come on. Like, I wasn't minimizing it, but I was 30 years old and I wasn't thinking this is going to be what it actually ended up being. And the surgeon specifically, she and I scheduled a meeting because I was adamant and so was she. And she said, I'm not going to do surgery without knowing what that is. So we did a biopsy. That had its own difficulties because it's not an easy process. It's not fun. Nothing about mammogram biopsy is fun at all. So got through that, and lobular, I was diagnosed through that process. Lobular is unique in that it just feels like thick skin. It doesn't feel like a knot. So it's actually, I'm very fortunate that I noticed and that I went the route that I did to have it discovered. So I was diagnosed, and then that opened the door to, so it was a Thursday. I got a call at 5:13 p.m. on August 3rd. And it was my surgeon. I was diagnosed by the surgeon because I was originally thinking I was just going to get surgery. And so there was a meeting scheduled for the next Tuesday. And I went with my mom and a friend, and we sat down, and she laid out what, as what UVA, the best that they could do. Like, this is it. And they were ready to help me. And it was they were very competent and confident and supportive. Had I gone the route that they laid out for me, which I didn't end up going, I'm grateful that there's a choice. And that's something that is of value if you're supporting someone on this journey, is knowing, one, that there are choices, and then two, respecting that person in their choice. So that week, in starting Tuesday, it was exploring options. So I sat down with the surgeon. We went through standard practice from UVA, from the breast, specialist unit there. It's amazing. They have, their initial and all this supportive therapy. But they said, we want to do chemo, surgery, radiation, and because of your age and you haven't had children, we're going to schedule fertility. And then all of this, it was a lot. And we also did the DNA test for genetics to see if it was genetic, and it's not. So just all of that, it's fairly overwhelming, especially, in the hospital environment, and they're asking hard questions, and you have to make really hard decisions. Like, do you want to have kids one day, like your own kids? And we need to know that now. They said, we need to know that actually by Saturday, because we want to start chemo ASAP, and there's, an order to all this. So it was very overwhelming. So by the end of the day on Wednesday, after all of these appointments back to back from Tuesday to the end of the day on Wednesday, I was fully informed on standard Western medicine practice of how one would go about treating breast cancer. And the end of the day on Wednesday, I spoke with somebody who gave me this, and it came from someone who had walked the same or similar path as I was on, and spoken to my life and gave me this piece of information that was so helpful to me. And that was, you have time. You have time to make a choice, one that you are comfortable with. And for some, there isn't. But the urgency of, you need to make a decision, a life-changing decision right now, it creates a stress. And when you're in that state, you're not thinking clearly, and you may not be happy with your choice. And it may feel that your hand was forced. It raises conflict. Mm-hmm. So I gave myself the gift of time. So Thursday, from start to end, I spent the day with 4 people who had gone a different route. And that's an alternative route. And got to hear their story. One woman, she cut out time for me, and she just said, ask me anything. She was on the same journey that I was on. And I was so overwhelmed, but so grateful that she cut time out of her schedule to meet with me. But I didn't have questions. I said, can you please just share with me your story? And so she did. And the things that she learned, and the choices that she made, and the reason why she made the choices, just spoke to me. And that was one of 4 people. And by the end of the day on Thursday, I went home, and I saw someone from my family who said to me, whatever you've been doing today, keep doing it, because you have life and hope back in your being. Like, I see it. And I felt it, because the end of the day on Wednesday and the end of the day on Thursday, Wednesday night, I was staring at a blank wall, completely overwhelmed. And Thursday, I felt empowered, and that I had life and choice. And there's a verse in the Bible. It says, I know the plans I have for you. It's a very famous verse, Jeremiah 29:11. plans to prosper you and not to harm you, give you a future and a hope. And I went to a clinic called Hope for Cancer, and they treat the whole person, body, mind, and spirit. And they have 7 basic principles. You can find information online about that. Dr. Tony Jimenez started it. They work with your body to boost your immune system, to give it all the nutrients and to detox and supportive therapies so that your body can heal. Mm-hmm. And the idea is your body made it, your body can deal with it. And there was a piece of information that I held on to because I knew this was going to be a long-term process, because it didn't just happen overnight. And that was part of the decision making and the time that I had, that I knew I have time to make a decision, is because this didn't just descend upon me. It's something that your body actually deals with the rogue cells that everyone has, and cancer is just when those cells aren't dealt with. So it happens over time. Upon diagnosis, a question that I had that wasn't initially given to me, and one that everyone asked me as soon as I was diagnosed, is what stage is it? And it seems like a daunting question, and there's so much emotion that goes with it. But just to kind of give you an example from where I was starting, I was between stage 2 and 3 because of the size, but it had not metastasized. And it has not metastasized. Thank you, Jesus. So it's stable. I can say with just all the joy in my heart and tell you, I have monitored it every 3 months. But let me go back to the initial clinic treatment stay is 3 weeks, and it's very intensive, all of those 7 basic principles. Mm-hmm. And along the way, people who know me, toward the beginning asked me, when they found out I was diagnosed, they were like, Jess, if you were diagnosed with cancer, if you find out like what contributed to that, please let me know, because those who know me, let me just share a little bit about me. And that is, I was raised on a farm with very health conscious family. We milled our own wheat. We had our own chickens. We grew a garden, grounding, walking around without shoes, getting enough sunlight, exercise, all of that from when I was young. It has been a part of my experience. I went to school and studied nutrition and wellness, and then human services, health and wellness, which is in the counseling field. So for me to have a dis-ease, where there's dis-ease in your body, if you look at it at face value of how I eat, and I didn't eat a lot of meat, and that there's controversy there, but as I've learned on this journey, and that was the beginning of the foundation of getting a lifestyle established where it cultivated health, is eliminating meat. I didn't eat a lot of it beforehand. I wasn't opposed to it, and I did eat it, but it was farm raised, it was healthy. And so we'll go into that further, but the importance of even just focusing on, we're not just a physical body, we're body, mind, and spirit, and how this like interaction of those 3 things. One of the biggest things that we'll touch on that I've learned in my experience, because nutrition is huge and I've done a lot with that, but stress management is big. So here we are. I've, been back to the clinic, and I do therapies at home, and just kind of a bird's eye view. That's been the diagnosing process. The big changes that happened in my diet, I switched and I started eating organic, which I did, but I didn't commit to fully. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the research and those who came before me and the clinic taught me the importance of, if your body is healing, you want to keep from putting things that aren't good for it in, so it can focus, because your body does prioritize healing. It isn't focusing on getting rid of the bad. It's just focused on the healing, and it's all like working on healing, not fighting off anything that you're putting in your body that isn't good for you. So organic, I started juicing hardcore. That was a big thing in the beginning, like juice, like a green and a orange, carrots, celery, cucumber, turmeric, ginger, beets. Yeah, just so much great nutrition. And I wasn't a big proponent of juicing before because I was like, oh, you need all that fiber. But there's a time and a place for everything, and that helped a lot. It helped detox. It helped get those bioavailable nutrients in a form where I could receive them. So a lot of change. I cut out meat. I cut out dairy. I cut out sugar, any processed food. I didn't eat a lot of those things before, but like cut it out. And I would go through different, not diets, but kind of like a vegetarian keto or a fast with just juicing. And it was organic, not literally, but in the sense of this is what my body needed. And then I would move into that. Something I'm aware of, and I kind of took that into account along the way, is fats and how they attribute to your hormone balance. And that's a big thing. Balance is a key word in nutrition in general, but in your health.
Yeah.
Balance. So oils, I would use oils or not use oils. Sometimes I would, incorporate a little bit of organic protein in some form or another, whether it's like organic chicken or organic salmon. And then sometimes none of that at all, and it would just be pure. I get protein from hemp, from pea protein powder, from pumpkin seeds. Like there, you learn along the way kind of creative things that work for you. And so bird's eye view, diagnosis, all the change. And then now I'm in a state of maintenance, which I'm grateful. And I have been stable since February of 18. And that is such a blessing.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a huge blessing. And you're right. Those of us who know you, it was very overwhelming to find out about your diagnosis because we all know how healthy you are. And we've talked about it before about how I love the way that you word it because you have a diagnosis, but you as a human, you are healthy and you've done a really good job of stewarding your health over the process. And with this diagnosis, I think you've done a really excellent job of focusing on the diagnosis and what your body needs to help support your healing. And I really respect that. And it's just been a fascinating and very encouraging journey to watch. So I have a question.
Yeah.
You have chosen to focus a lot on nutrition in your healing process, and you shared a good bit of that in your story. What does that look like today?
Yeah. So the food that I eat, it's like so healthy and it makes me feel so alive, and the colors are so vibrant that cooking, it's like making music with food or like art. It's a part of the process in and of itself. So I love, incorporating, like this past week, I like grated carrot and I put apple cider vinegar and chia seeds and, apple and celery and made this salad with mixed greens and parsley and it's as beautiful to the eye as it tastes because it's organic. So it doesn't, so many of us grew up with vegetables because of just kind of historically, just the way that the arc has gone with food in America. I mean, I grew up, I knew what Tang was. Some people may not know what Tang is, but it was like a drink from the future, from the past. Like astronauts drink this, and it was supposed to be like orange juice.
And you were so excited when Mom came home with Tang. Like, there's Tang in the house.
Like, what the heck is Tang? So I know, like, what is Tang? But I lost my train of thought.
So oh my gosh. You're saying a lot of times with the way that food looks and the way that we
Yeah. So like true orange juice, when it's fresh and it's organic and locally grown, if possible, it just is amazing. And there's no comparison of the one with the other.
Mm-hmm.
And your body's like, thank you. I can do what I was made to do. And I feel that it makes me feel so alive. And so what does that look like? Nutrition, it isn't set in that. Even just with the seasons, things change. Like this week, I have pumpkin and eggplant and zucchini, onion, tomato. I have my staples that I do for juice of like celery, cucumber, apple, like half an apple, because not a lot. There's controversy again, like how much sugar, if any sugar, what if it's natural sugar, all that. So I just find my own balance that feels healthy of what, and the beauty of it is when you detox and you get to a healthy place, you can trust how you feel and what your body wants. It doesn't crave crap. And in fact, when you bring that in, your body's like, whoa, no, I don't want that. And that journey started for me early because when I was in high school, I had some kind of bumps in the road with feeling poorly. And I did an elimination diet where I went back to the basics and just slowly added things back in. But when you're going into a season, and that was fine for a season, I believe. When you're going into a season where your focus needs to be solely and primarily on healing, you want to take away anything that would just distract or detract from what you're looking to accomplish. You want to focus and kind of put that energy toward just the healing and not the fending off. And that translates into so many other areas of life, whether it's stress in things that you choose to do or relationships and how you engage in them, the food that you eat. It looks the same. It's just that choice of what can I manage in this season? And that comes from, it is a choice that each of us have to make. And it's there. I don't say the word should often because, as someone once said to me, don't be careful not to should all over yourself. But that should be an individual choice, and it's one that you make based on your season. So again, back to nutrition and seasons. It looks different from week to week, but with that same basic standard of organic. And since I've been stable for the length of time that I have, I will eat at a restaurant, maybe more than I had before. Because before, initially, I was bringing my own food to a restaurant, and that was a kind of an adjustment of a lifestyle in and of itself, where all my friends go to a restaurant and I'm like, I'm here and I have my food. Yeah, I want to be able to do life, and yet I have to make choices for myself. So sometimes I can't go. Sometimes I bring my own food, and I'm okay with that. And I had to get to a place where I was. So yeah, it went from solidly juicing in the beginning, just a whole lot of it that was, when you're drinking a lot of juice, you're not eating a lot of food just because it's a lot. So, which then it progressed. Mm-hmm. So now it looks like as much raw, fresh as I can. I love to steam things, smoothies, juice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, from your perspective and in your journey with nutrition and supporting your body, that your goal is to detox, to make sure that you're not putting any bad stuff in. So that's why you're choosing organic, while at the same time giving your body as much food-based power as possible to equip it to tackle anything that's going on in your body that needs dealing with.
Yes. Yep.
And that's really smart. I really respect that. And I like how you don't, it sounds like, you don't have any like hard and fast rules for that. Like there are guidelines that you've followed, like being completely vegetarian, or occasionally maybe in a certain season you're doing chicken or the organic salmon and things like that. But really learning to listen to your body, and it sounds like once you detox, then your body's voice almost gets louder, and you can hear it a lot easier. I know I've talked to a lot of people who it's hard to even hear their body's voice, probably because we haven't been trained to listen to it and to just, drink the tang and enjoy it. But I do believe in the power of listening to what your body needs, and it's kind of like a muscle that you don't practice, that you don't work very much, but as you practice working it, then you get better at it, and it gets stronger, and you can kind of work more with it. Would you say that's a good overview?
Yes. And just to sum that up, as Dr. Tony Jimenez at the clinic would say, it's not what you do 100% of the time. It's 80-20. It's what you do most of the time, not all of the time, that matters. So it gives you grace, not stress. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So how did you even go about figuring out what you should and shouldn't be eating?
Yeah. Okay. So this is huge. So at the clinic, they fed us every day for 3 weeks, and that was helpful. And then I had other people in my community, those 4 people that I met with on that Thursday, that in August, that they had gone on their journey, and they came alongside me and helped me in that area as well. Like broccoli sprouts. They pack 40 times the punch as regular broccoli, and the importance of broccoli sprouts. Stuff like that, where it's like, you think, oh, I'm being healthy because I'm doing this. Well, you could, it's like working hard and smart. I had people come alongside me to help me work smart as I worked hard. Mm-hmm. And working hard at healing, it looks very passive sometimes. Like it's hard work, but it's allowing that work to happen. Mm-hmm. So it's, yeah. There was something else I was going to share with you, and I'm trying to remember what that was. What was the initial question?
How did you figure out what you should and shouldn't be eating?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Another person that was huge on this journey, that when I got back from the 3-week stay at the clinic, I have seen this man's material like at the grocery store line there by the checkout. His name is Chris Wark. And he did Chris Beat Cancer, and you'll see his material online. He's fairly big in the holistic healing community. He has his own story. You can find him and his story. When I got back from the clinic, he posted videos. He sells his package where he puts so much of what he learned in the years of his training into this material, but he shared it. It aired as soon as I got home. It aired this week long of these clips of his journey and the research and the how to and the why and the nuts and bolts and practicality of it. Was his own testimony story of how he did it. That has been huge, tremendous in helping, because you have a million questions. Like, what about stevia? What about, how do I incorporate supplements? Mm-hmm. I mean, there are a million questions, literally. And the clinic was so great in that it came alongside me and it helped me. I started doing coffee enemas. I don't know if anybody knows what a coffee enema is, but I'm very happy that I had.
Real foodies know what coffee enemas are.
Well, I needed to learn all that. So I went to a place where they were like, okay, this is how you do this. This is why you do this. And just helping you along the way. And it's emotional, and they have emotional support. And it was very helpful. So, having people that I could ask. And over time, I have become one of those people that people come to, and they're like, okay, what about this? What about that? And we have a community where some of us, we're all in this together. So we are connected in our diagnosis. And so we're like, well, like nitty gritty. Like, what about almonds? Because it's an estrogen promoter. What about flaxseed? What about soy? And the research, it kind of goes up and down. And so do our hormones. And so as I've learned, it's all about balance. So balancing the hormones, if you have too much of something, so say it's estrogen. If you have too much estrogen, then it would be counterproductive to eat an estrogen promoting food. But then there's a synergy of understanding how that food is metabolized. So like the beginning of last year, there was a report that came out that said, this is why soy is actually beneficial. Whereas before I wasn't eating it because, again, the research, but there's always research on either side. So again, that's where it comes back to, where does that fit into my story? Where does, and we have a choice, and we could choose not to make it and be like, well, I'll just throw it in here and there and see how I feel. And that's totally fine too. It's just part of the journey.
Yeah, I really respect that. One thing that I talk about in trying to empower people to save money and eat healthy is that you have to find what works for you. Some people are really good at, like staying off gluten, staying off dairy, they're eating all organic. And some people are like, we just need to eat and it can't be ramen anymore.
Yeah.
And there's, every person has their different story and their unique body, and that's why it's so important to take responsibility for that, I think.
Yeah, I love watching your channel too. I incorporate the things that you teach. Like I shared with you last week, I took a picture and sent it to you of like when I juice, I have all of these celery ends and carrot ends, and I throw an onion and all that into a pot and I make a stock. And then that when you take out meat, dairy, like a lot of flavor, condiment type stuff, you start your spice cabinet expands, but then also like you really appreciate when you make a good stock and you put that in with your quinoa. I mean, yeah, and it's so cost effective, and it's not wasteful. There's so many, and it's nostalgic for me too to have a stock pot on the stove, because that was something I grew up with, and now it doesn't have like all the things that it had growing up with like bones and stuff, but it's still it still feels familiar and comfortable, and it's, I'm actively taking care of so many. I feel very responsible when I do that.
I'm adulting, I'm making stock.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's wonderful. So I would love to hear a kind of snapshot of your day and what your daily meals look like. Like, let's say yesterday. Just tell me what you ate yesterday.
Okay.
Because I know it changes with the seasons, and it changes with what your body needs, and it probably changes with what's on sale at the grocery store. But
yeah, it does. So let me.
Not to put you on the spot. Can you
remember? Sometimes I can't remember what I ate. So yesterday I don't remember yesterday very well, but
just give me a sample day.
Yeah, a sample day. Okay. So just like therapies wise, like all of that, or food?
Let's do nutrition.
Okay. So again, seasons, changes. There was a season where I had to get more protein in my diet because there was, as we do, the testing, and you find you're not getting enough protein, and if your body doesn't get enough protein, then it starts sourcing it from your body. And
right.
And I would wake up and have juice and a protein shake. And that has berries and all kinds of
protein shake does?
Supplements, yeah. Berries, half a banana, protein powder. I started, again, when you're looking at like your blood work and all this stuff, I learned that I needed all kinds of things. Like I needed iodine for my thyroid. And so I put the iodine in my smoothie. Green powder greens are so great, packs a punch. You get so many nutrients in just one scoop. Put it right in there. I take a lot of supplements, a lot of vitamins and all kinds of stuff. So I have my supplements, I have my smoothie, I have my juice, and I go back and forth between what I have for breakfast. Sometimes I'll eat oatmeal. Now, that is a carbohydrate, and there's an understanding of sugar drives our fuels. Yeah, the nitty gritty of carbohydrates and how much is too much, because it breaks down into sugar, and sugar, natural sugars. Yeah. Not to get into all of that, but we're talking about nutrition. You definitely need to bring in balance. So portion size, frequency, variety, balance. I'm trying new things. Like sometimes I'll make like overnight chia pudding.
Mm-hmm.
Or you take alternate milk. So like coconut milk is a favorite of mine. Or what else? I don't use almond milk so much, or soy. So it's mostly coconut, although I do incorporate some of the others. Macadamia nut, I tried that one the other week because it was at Costco, and I love Costco. So yeah, overnight where you take the chia and the alternate milk and then some berries and put it in the fridge, and then the next morning that overnight oats. That's a big thing that you make that I love. That I'll do that.
What does oatmeal look like for someone who's avoiding added sweeteners?
Yeah, so I've learned that when you eat less sugar, you need less sugar. So oatmeal does taste sweet to me. I will add like apple cinnamon, maybe a little bit of stevia or some berries. But again, coming down to choices, maybe like a little bit of honey. I can have a little bit of honey, but it's not something that where it was a staple before. Your tastes change. And it's hard because you let go of some things. Some things are easier to let go than others. Like, let me give you an example. Coffee. Now, I take my coffee a little bit differently these days. But coffee.
Still very effective.
Yes. But coffee before, I would drink it, but I didn't. It was more like the experience of like, you have the warm cup of coffee in the morning. And you could still get that with tea. And there's like, an alternate way. And green tea is so good for you, and hibiscus and soursop and all of these, like there's so many things that you can learn along the way. You can make reishi mushroom tea. You can there are 1,000,001 things that you can drink in the morning. Like some people, and we did this at the clinic, you go and you have a shot of like your green wheatgrass. You have a shot of what they call turmeric milk, where it's an alternate milk and has turmeric in it. And then expressed lemon in water with cayenne pepper. Woo! And you can crack pepper on your turmeric milk. That's like the morning dose. You go and you get your meds. I mean, like, of course they have meds that you can take, but it's all about getting those, what is the word? Anti-inflammatory. You want to keep and maintain a very healthy state, and those are greens. They help with detox and with antioxidants, and they give you all those rich nutrients, phytochemicals, vitamins. So starting your day that way, it just starts the day out on a great foot. And so the more that I can do that in the morning and prioritize that in my day, where you're taking care of yourself. And I'm sure as a mom with little ones, it looks different because it's like, okay, mouths and how I applaud you, because I know that's very hard. On my side of things, it's hard in a different way, because it's like taking care of me is a full-time job because it's so much. And I know we're going to touch on this soon, but I could not do it. I could not have done it. I do it now by myself, which I'm very proud of myself. I am able to do so many things now, which when I was first diagnosed, I was so overwhelmed. And I had people who loved me and supported me, who were available, and they came and they would juice for me, or they would make me a smoothie, or they would make me some breakfast. And now, because I was like, my whole life changed. My whole life changed. And it's so good when your whole life gets uprooted. But because in that moment you can choose, how do I want to rebuild this? But and this is just like, everyone I believe can relate to this, because it happens to us all, of, whoa, that is no more. And now where am I? And so, so as far as food and nutrition, that's the beginning of my day. And then I'll have like a salad or like a big salad, or like I eat quinoa. So again, I study nutrition and wellness, which it has helped me so much. And I did meet with a nutritionist at the clinic who's amazing. And he helped me, like, I don't know, like I spoke his language because we were talking amino acids and like, you know, polysaccharides and, you know, I'm a nerd, or when it comes to this.
I bet you love that. It's like, he knows these words too.
Yeah. Something that in my training, there's something called the glycemic index. And not to like put too much out there, but you have on the glycemic index, if you look it up, all food and some foods, those simple carbohydrates, sugars, simple foods, there aren't what's best. So if you hang out in like the lower fiber, not so high carbohydrate foods, fruits, vegetables. The foundation of my diet is fruits and vegetables. Just like throwing that out there. And then if I incorporate some carbohydrates, some mornings, Steph, I'll have a bowl of lettuce. Like I love it. I just wake up and I crave greens and I throw them in a bowl with some hemp seeds and some olive oil and vinegar and salt and pepper. And I just devour that. And I love it. I know I'm getting all those rich nutrients in. Some people blend their greens, or I'll put a handful of spinach in my smoothie. But then some mornings I just want a bowl of greens. And if I want it, I eat it. Or kale or broccoli. It's like thinking outside the box, because it's like, okay, what are my breakfast choices? And I still incorporate some things. Like Saturday mornings, I still love to make pancakes or muffins. And I make them, this week I made them with buckwheat and coconut flour and chia seeds. And I just threw so many things. It's hard to like keep track as I'm going, but I literally have a cabinet with, this is what I can eat. And then it's, you know.
Surely I can make pancakes out of this cabinet of options.
Yeah. And that for me is nostalgic. My little brother and I, we used to make pancakes together, and we lived out in the country, and you always have things to make pancakes. Like flour. For me, sometimes I'll have organic, it has to be a very specific egg, because you have to make sure it's not hormonally whatever. Right. Sometimes I'll have that, but I have like, it's a powder and it's made from garbanzo beans, and it is an egg substitute. I use that. So it's like alternate milk, alternate egg, alternate flour, but you still incorporate those things. And then you can.
And now you have an alternate pancake.
And you have an alternate pancake. And it may not be exactly like the pancake that you grew up with, but it's still a pancake. And you made it, and you're taking care of yourself, and it's nostalgic, and it's delicious. And there you as I've learned along the way, you learn how to make it more delicious. Like I've learned buckwheat pancakes are better on the second day. They're not as great in the morning of. So I'll make some and I'll put them in the freezer. And then that's part of my breakfast sometimes is I'll take an organic, buckwheat pancake, throw it in the toaster, put some cashew butter on it, grab some apple, and, I'm going on my day. And that is different than it used to be. I wasn't ever like a really big cereal eater, but, your basic breakfast options, they definitely, for me, have changed. And it's just, a little bit different, but still delicious.
But I love how you just use what you have. Like, this is what I can eat.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make something awesome with what I have. And I'm sure that goes back to our childhood, where when you live in the middle of nowhere, there's no, I'm out of this, I'll just run to the store. I'll be back in 4 hours, Yeah. So we just learned that, like, this is what I have, and I can make something amazing from this.
Yes.
I think that's a very important skill to have, just for adulting, because none of us has exactly what we need all the time. We have to be creative. But I think it's also important when you are supporting your health and wellness, then you're going to have to use alternatives. Very often you're going to have to use alternatives, just depending on how you grew up, or, like honestly, like, who decides what's normal, you know? Like, who decides what a normal pancake is? Is pancake from a box a normal pancake? Like, the way we grew up, a normal pancake was like the flour just came from the grain mill on the counter and the eggs just came from the chicken's butt outside, and
Yeah.
now we have a pancake.
Yes.
So
those eggs you always crack in a separate container before you put them
absolutely.
in the bowl.
And make sure you wash them beforehand, please.
Yeah.
So I think it's important. A lot of times we have this idea of what things should be. And this gets really deep into, like, you know, like even what our lives should look like and what our health should look like. And it's important to keep in mind that there is no should in life. And I love how you take what you have, even if it's something as little as, you know what, I have a Saturday morning, I have a feeling for pancakes, and I have a cabinet full of ingredients, and we're going to make something amazing with that. And isn't that true? If I can just if I can make a metaphor and take it way too far.
No, I love it. That's where I live.
But it's true for our whole lives, and that's wonderful. So that's awesome. I think it's important for us to get out of the breakfast box.
Yeah.
And if our bodies are saying, hey, you know what, a salad would be amazing right now, then we should listen to that. You know, breakfast doesn't have to be eggs and bacon.
Yes.
What does your dinner look like?
Yeah. So I have my Taste and See, Jessie's Nutrition Therapy, where I put up pictures, and I
love following that.
So I have, you know, like my own Facebook, my own Instagram, but I don't know. I just wanted people to have the option of following me and not seeing what I was eating every day, because sometimes that's not why people follow you. Like,
right.
I just have respect for that space. So this was, I think, before I really got into stories on Facebook. But anyways, I created like a page where I would share all these different things that I tried, and I got really creative, and I had people who wanted to get really creative with me and try all kinds of crazy alternate recipes. And I have like my mom and one of her very good friends, and now one of my very good friends, they got on this wagon with me and went full out. And so now we're all eating the same way. And so they're always like kind of trolling, looking for recipes. For my birthday, I got from this woman who's just been so supportive, and my mom, cookbook of all like these vegan recipes. And on that note, I don't like, you know, where you can, it helps to kind of describe things, like to say vegan. I wouldn't categorize myself as a vegan, though that is pretty much how I eat.
Right.
Very, very, very similar to a vegan diet. So, so for dinner, I work at a restaurant, and I have, you know, I serve tacos and pizza. So you're around it all the time. And it's farm to table and, you know, fresh, local, and it's a great concept and recipes that they have. But it has gluten, it has meat, it has things that I can't have right now. And not in a, I don't focus on what I can't have. I focus on all the things that I can have. So what I do, and I love to do, is to create tacos and pizza that I can eat.
Best food ever.
Yes. And it's a great job, because it's like I'm giving people their favorite food. So no, but I found through the nutritionist at the clinic these cassava flour tortillas. Not that I'm opposed to corn, but cassava is just one step healthier. Mm-hmm. And they're available, and I'm happy to eat them, and they're delicious. And so the cassava flour tortillas, and I love trying new things. So like I'll do sweet potato tacos, which I got a recipe from my sister on, or hibiscus tacos. Like, who would have thought? My spice cabinet, after I was diagnosed, it like erupted. I had before like salt, pepper, cumin, garlic. I don't know, like it was Italian seasoning. It was fairly kind of boxed. Now I love so many spices. So I will do like all different kind of slants of international type cuisine and incorporate that into whether it's like, I'm trying to think, like, I love trying Indian food because they also focus on healthy. Thai food, again, focus on. And I had a friend from, in college, I had a friend from Thailand. Yeah. And their diet, it was purely medicinal. Like they didn't eat things that weren't good for them.
Yeah.
Like everything had a purpose. And I love that concept. So I brought that in. So like tom kha soup, I love. And to make a healthy alternative, like using alternate milk and all that I can have. I got very creative. And so you can see what I have created. But I got, here, you'll love this thrifty thing for, what is it? The day after Thanksgiving is Black Friday shopping?
Yes.
Okay. So my sister-in-law is a big Black Friday shopper, and we spent Thanksgiving together. And I'm not huge into it, but leading up to it, I was thinking I would love one of those like blender things, like a Ninja. And I saw her, and she always goes Black Friday shopping. On Thanksgiving, I saw her, and she said, "Is there anything that you would want that, as I'm out, I can look for?" And I was like, as a matter of fact, yes. So I told her, and while she was out, she saw one, and it was like $100 cheaper than normal. Anyways, I bought it for myself, and I have used it so much to make smoothies. It has like a bullet attachment. It has like the canister, like medium and large. And so like soups and cauliflower crust and tabbouleh. And I mean, it just opened the door to creativity that much further. So, yeah, again, dinner a lot of the time looks like I have cabbage and I have mushrooms. And so I'm going to have cabbage and mushrooms for dinner. Like, sauteed.
What spices do we have?
Yeah, sauteed in coconut oil. And that's another thing that I learned along the way. Coconut oil has a higher smoke point than olive oil. So olive oil, I'll put in salad to make like salad dressing. But coconut oil, when the oil smokes, there's a chemical process happening, and it's becoming a trans fat, which our body, it isn't helpful. Right. And so when you see your oil smoking, just know, like, it's just kind of like a guide. Oh, it's too hot. Yeah. So I do my best when I'm sauteing to do it at a temperature, and I'll use coconut oil at a temperature that is agreeable to that oil, and just saute that up, and throw in some spices. And a lot of the times it just looks like two vegetables, and I'm totally okay with that. And maybe a fruit for dessert, but yeah.
That's wonderful. So what does your grocery cart look like on an average time? Is it mostly like fruits and vegetables? Do you try to follow sales?
So when I was first diagnosed, I had the beautiful seasonal privilege, as people supported me, of where I didn't have to shop sales, though I can and did. I focused on what I needed to get in my body more so than what was available and how can I be thrifty with it, because I was kind of in that season of you need to take very good care of yourself. So I would go, so I love Whole Foods. I love Aldi. I love Lidl. They have organic options. Wegmans. The little, like, there are little places peppered throughout Richmond, which is where I live, of, or, farm stands where it says organically grown, and they'll, they're little nooks and crannies. And I found them, and they have like options of things that I can eat. For example, I found a chocolate that is like stevia sweetened, vegan, so it doesn't have any milk solids. And they have like 3 flavors I can have. What? I know. So when you need that, I have it in the freezer. I have a square or 2 when I need it, and it's there, because sometimes you just need that. And you think, I have to. In the beginning, I gave up all of that. And it was, for me, it was such a dramatic and extreme choice of, and this is like ground zero for me, but it was like, you're giving up wine, chocolate, sugar. You know, everyone was like, that's so dramatic. But that was my choice at the beginning. It was like that. And the drama is, or like that, or life, or do you want to be able to have children? Like, it was so extreme. That I was so happy to give up everything in the beginning.
Worth it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. And that was, people would ask me in the beginning, like, is this what your diet's going to be like always and forever? And to a degree, yes, because it's healthy, and it's now just healthier, and it's very similar to what it was. It just, I cut out so much of like the fringe choices that I was making that it felt like, oh, this is okay. It was okay for a season, I trust, but when your load is heavier, sometimes it just is too much. So again, shopping cart. I go and they say when you're shopping, you shop the outside of the store. Yeah. Yes. A lot of my time is spent in the produce section. So like my cart is very colorful. My cart, I like shopping where I don't use plastic bags. So I bring my little totes, but certain stores don't let you put it right in the tote. So I have it right in the cart. So it looks like I've gone out to the garden, because it just, there's like celery and beets and cucumber and broccoli and herbs and sprouts, onions, apples, avocado, nuts, coconut milk, olives. Like, I'll go through, I have like my little thing. I literally just I know where to go in the store, and I just get my things and then go. And along the way,
sounds like you go to the produce section and you're just like, and all of this.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's whatever is seasonal and what feels like, yes, I want to eat that. Or I'm interested to experiment with that. I have never eaten that before, and I have no idea what to do with that, but I like a challenge, and I like diversity and variety in my diet. So
that's amazing. That's awesome. So you named some of your favorite grocery stores. If I had to make you pick 3, what would be your 3 favorites that you think have helped support and empower your healing journey?
Yeah. So locally, my favorite is Whole Foods, because it's a one-stop shop. I know that they're going to have, the only thing that sometimes they don't have in stock is organic celery since January of this year, because everyone went on this like celery craze. Yes. That there's a certain day where they have celery. The best cashew butter is at Wegmans. I'm just saying. And they have celery more often.
There you go. That's awesome.
Wegmans has so much variety. Wegmans is huge. And I appreciate those things about Wegmans, but I like the small of Whole Foods. And then, I mean, nothing beats the local farmer who's like, hey, I want to share this with you. Right. Thank you.
This thing was in the ground yesterday. Would you like it?
I know, right? And then the farm stand, the local farm stand here, there's like a storefront called the Farm Stand that they've been very supportive of my journey. And their story is actually, the backstory is that they've had a similar struggle in their family, and the reason why they're so health conscious and they have so many healthy options within that, and it's out in the country where I used to live, and they have, a space there, is because of the health conscious background in their own family. So when I go there, I know that they're coming from the same place that I am in their choices, and that's what they have available. And so that's wonderful. And I make a trip out there and get all kinds of fresh, local to the community that I was raised in produce. And I love that. So Wegmans, Whole Foods and Wegmans are the local in Richmond where I live. And then like the little, especially the season of farmers markets, they're big around here too. And then the farm stand, I'd say.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And shout out if you guys are on Instagram. They're also on Facebook, but it's just The Farm Stand. And if you live in the Richmond or Central Virginia area, it's worth a trip out there. It's the sweetest store, and they pack a powerful punch with their products and working with the farm to table community out there. It's really wonderful to see that, especially in a rural area. So what would you say to the person who has just been diagnosed or is just in their healing process, and is just overwhelmed with the nutrition aspect of their healing? What if you could just speak to them for a minute or two? What would you?
Yeah. So it can be very overwhelming. There are many options, and focusing on what you can eat instead of what you can't eat, because there's joy in what you can eat and focusing on that. It's individual as well. So I would always recommend like running it by a nutritionist or your doctor, or, because it could be, depending on your story, if you are on, say, for example, for me, part of my story growing up was my grandpa, he would come visit, and he had diabetes, and he was on a blood thinner. And so when you're on a blood thinner, you don't want to eat green leafy vegetables. So when he came to visit, we would create a meal plan when he came based off foods that he could eat based on what would be healthy for him. Mm-hmm. Green leafy vegetables, you're thinking, duh, it's so good for you, but it's individualized. So know that what's best for you is different from what's best from the next person. It may vary, but there are some just basics. I've always gone by the most unprocessed, close to the way that God made it, right off the vine, off the tree, from the ground, as you can get it with minimal processing in between. That's best. Organic is best, but then also you do your best with what you have. And that's something that you've always shared on your channel, and I love, is there isn't the stress of doing it perfectly. It is a process, and you'll learn as you go. Mm-hmm. You'll incorporate a new thing, like a new supplement. You kind of bring in what you need, and your body, if you're craving pizza, mm-hmm. learn how to make a healthy pizza. Pancakes, learn how to make, and you
pancake.
You just learn as you go of how can I do this in a way that I still feel like I'm living, and I'm not like mm-hmm. just surviving. I'm thriving with all of these options. Mm-hmm. When I was in school for nutrition, somebody said, paint a palette with your plate. And so mm-hmm. balance, variety, and moderation. I've always held on to those three things. So with nutrition, starting with the basics, work from there. And it's, and try not to get overwhelmed, because stress isn't helpful to healing.
No, it's not. And we're going to get into that in the next interview, which I'm really excited about that topic. Yeah. So it sounds like some keys to remember if you've been diagnosed or are just in, just maybe you've had this diagnosis for a while and you are just now trying to tackle the topic of nutrition, is that step by step is okay. Baby steps are okay. You kind of start with the basic idea of unprocessed food and foods that are as close to their natural state as possible. And then, nutritionist, ask your nutritionist or someone that you're working with to make sure that that's working with, any meds that you might be on or any other supplements that you might be on. And don't be afraid to just keep learning. You don't have to get it all right the first time. And nothing in life do we get it all right the first time. And I think we can put a lot of pressure on ourselves, especially in a stressful time. But I think it's important for us all to remember that it's okay to just take it a baby step at a time. And like you said, as your body detoxes and as you get healthier in the rest of your body, then you'll be able to listen to your body more and figure out what it needs.
Yeah.
And then, of course, always working with a good nutritionist is important.
Yeah.
So last question, what would you say to the person whose friend or family member has just been diagnosed with breast cancer and they really want to help support and encourage them. And you can answer this in two parts if you want. Just with the general diagnosis, how do you support a family member and just be a loving person in their life? And then how can a person support and encourage their family member in the nutrition aspect?
Yeah. Okay. So this is huge. And it's hard, but it's so good. Okay. So, of course, when we go through a hard thing, we learn a lot. And sometimes, it's often process of how does this work? And allowing grace in that process and allowing that. So from the inner circle. So for me, I was diagnosed. And I went through a time where I knew I had to make some really hard choices. So what that looked like for me was I went and looked at all of my options and researched and understood and then trusted my ability to make those choices. Mm-hmm. And somebody who can come alongside you on that journey and respect you in making those choices and support you. It's hard. Because especially if you're close to that person, there are emotions. So my mom and we went through this where she is the mom of a daughter who has a diagnosis. And then I who have the diagnosis. And as we were navigating that, both sides are hard. So things that would come up that I learned is huge communication of being able to say what works and doesn't work. And knowing, like, coming up where what I could do is I could come up with a list of things that I knew that I needed. And then I felt comfortable enough to say to somebody, so whether it's my mom or she could help me network. In the beginning, it was somebody close who could help network. Okay, there's all this that needs to be done, and I need help with this piece. And, whether it was putting it up in a public way of, is anyone really good with paperwork? And then somebody responded and helped me with that piece. Can somebody come and help me juice? Or some of my therapies have like prep, or they're just have somebody to like be with you in the beginning is good. Mm-hmm. But it looks different for each person, and you don't know what you're going to need until you go through it. Yeah. And so some people in that circle are the ones who say, maybe shoot you a text every day and say, hey, I'm going by the store. Can I get you something? Or some of those people are, on the side, just cheering you on and call you once a week. And here's a big thing. It's kind of two sides of it. There's an emotional responsibility of me not taking on somebody's emotion that they may be feeling, but then that other person's responsibility of not bringing that, because it's like a vulnerable place of kind of being susceptible to a hard emotion. So for some, and I've learned this along the way, it's too hard to be in that circle, and that's okay. Like, I trust that we know what we're able for. And if it's too hard for them to be in that place, what's really hard, and I kind of had to learn how to process when you go in public and people learn you have a diagnosis, they respond in their face and their body of, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And as much as they care, and I appreciate, the emotional sympathy, there's like a pity in the pity part that's like, oh, it's really hard. So it may limit the time that I'm able to spend in certain circles, and I'm okay with that. And I don't want anybody to assume anything because of that. So just allowing people space and grace to learn what they need and navigate it. I'm thinking of what people have done for me. People have done fundraisers, and that has been tremendous. Some people that, some people can be physically present with you, and some people have written me a check, and I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. When I first was diagnosed, it was so daunting. Like, juicing and eating organic alone, let alone going to Mexico to hope for cancer. It's like, whoa, what are we doing? Like, I went to the clinic one time and there was created for me a whole stack of envelopes where people wrote me letters and sent them, and then they went with me. So every day I was at the clinic, I could open some letters when I needed some encouragement, stuff like that. That was huge. Things that are hard, and I don't want to focus on the things to stay away from, but it's very difficult when you're going through something, when someone says, oh, I know somebody who went through that and they did this, and kind of puts it as you should do that too, or like, this is going to save you. The pressure is already on.
Yeah. Thank you. I've already thought of all the things.
Well, and it's not, I don't appreciate your input, I don't want it. What I ended up doing is trusting if it came up more than once. If it came in a way that I could receive it, if it came from a source where I felt like I could trust it, that was where ground zero of making decisions was the continuity of the peace and decision making. I'm trusting the process. I'm trusting the journey. I'm trusting in a big way myself and God and my relationship with him, and that decision making ability that I have of, I am okay. I can make this decision, and I'm not making it alone, and I'm not alone. I had in the beginning, it's hard because it was 2 years ago, and it's beautiful that I can think back and remember, like, people came alongside me and blessed the socks off of me in so many ways. Talking about community and coming along and supporting church communities, if it was like covering a bill or buying my juicer or donating produce or giving me a certificate where I could go to the store and get what I needed. Amazon card. So some people have like essential oil thing. And one of my friends messaged me and said, hey, I'd like to, on my order this month, I'd like to get something for you too. Is there an oil that I can get for you that you would like? Things like that, where it's just like thoughtful and there's no expectation that anybody's going to respond in a certain way. That in the food side of things, but then there's another side of emotions of, I am sad today. I am angry today. I am anxious today. I'm fearful today. All of those are okay. And for people who are on the inner circle who really care about you, it's a struggle sometimes for them to see you that way. But it's very important in the process to allow those emotions to have a space, let them help you to grow, and then let them go. So that being part of the process, if you're coming alongside somebody who's going through that, it may be really messy, and you may, make mistakes and feel, a certain way of having an expectation, or frustrated because I'm in pain and I really need this right now, and I just need to, without any frill, just tell you, please stop, and then we can talk about it later. People who can give you the space and respect to let you figure that out, and that you can do that with. Sometimes the people aren't the people you thought would be those people, and that's perfectly fine. There's no, this is who it's going to be. It's been different people throughout. So it's kind of seasons, and just in any, I think that's normal in life. Some people don't know what to do, and so then they're like, I'm just doing whatever I can, and that's fine too, but it's allowing that person that space and grace to navigate individually what works. That's been huge. People who allow me that.
It sounds like flexibility is really important, and not coming to the table with expectations of what your loved one is going to do with their diagnosis, and expectations about what your role is going to be in it, but maybe just be really flexible and be really humble with the process, and available. Would you say that sounds
Yeah.
fair?
Yes. It's been huge.
Yeah, like just being available, and
even if you can't, that's okay too. There's some difficulty, and I'm guilty of this as well, of like saying, I want to be able to do anything and everything for you, and I'm here, just let me know. And then if I reach out, oh, sorry, I can't. And that's perfectly fine. But there's like in our communication, we need to also be honest with ourselves of what we're able to do. Space and grace and respect for the journey, and it being okay if it's messy.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And isn't that true of every relationship, right?
Yeah.
So here's a question, because I know that this is very true, and I know that I am guilty of this in some relationships. When someone has gone through a traumatic time, whether that is, having a diagnosis or just something traumatic, sometimes it can be very you feel so awkward and weird about it that you don't know how to reach out and not be weird about it.
Yeah.
Someone will want to help or want to be there for you, but for a lot of us, this is heavy stuff, this is scary stuff, and we can just get weird about it. Like, I don't know what I would say to her, and I don't know, what are you supposed to say? Like you're saying, the pity and stuff, like, oh, I'm so sorry, like, wait, should I be saying that? What's the proper, we just know these things. So what would you say to the person who feels that way? Like, I want to be there for someone, but it just feels so weird, and it's overwhelming, and like, I'm having big feelings about this because it's a big deal when someone you love is for this, because honestly, it can get kind of selfish to where you suddenly realize it could be me too. And then you're like, oh gosh, it's not about me, it's about them. But really deep down, you're going, it could get any of us,
Yeah. So I think a big part of that is honoring your own journey. And that's something that I'm learning too. And it goes back to expectation of, if there's something that's on your heart that you want to say or do, it's almost like a dance where you coming without expectation and not judging somebody on their choices, but with love. Like, you can't go wrong with that. Like, lead with love. Like, hey, I love you, I'm thinking about you. Mm-hmm. And then the person hopefully will learn, if they don't already know, how to ask for help, or will put something forward where you can respond to what they said.
So like your GoFundMe page, I think, was really powerful.
Yeah.
It was very difficult to do. It was a way for people who love you and care about you to just know immediately, from a practical standpoint, this is what I can do.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you already.
Something that comes to mind, just like a quick thing, like the no of, and this was hard for me. I had to not go to church for a little while, where people would come up and they grab your arm and look in your face and go, how are you? Oh. I was like, I was fine until you said that. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, that's so
and people don't realize.
Mm-hmm.
And that is okay. And if that means that I don't go to church for a little bit and I watch sermons online, or I just have my own time with Jesus, that is okay.
Yeah.
That's me being responsible for me.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody else can't talk to that person who's going through that hard thing because that's too much for them, I honor that too. I have no expectation that if talking to me is too much, totally fine.
It's kind of much to talk to you too, so.
I mean, just having, I have boundaries for myself, and you can have boundaries for yourself, and if that's too much, that is okay. Yeah. I'll be the first one to support you and having your own space and boundaries.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Jessie, I really, really appreciate this conversation, and appreciate your authenticity and sharing your journey. So this is the first of several interviews that we're going to do, and I'm really excited about the next one because we're going to talk about the important role that rest and stress management has played in supporting your overall health in this journey, and how, here's the cool thing, guys, getting rest is kind of like free.
Yes.
Talking about saving money and being healthy, doing nothing is usually pretty budget friendly.
Yes.
So we're going to explore what that looks like for you from a practical standpoint and from a healing and supporting your whole body's health standpoint, and how that's looked for you in your journey. And I can't wait to talk about that. So thanks everybody for tuning in, or whatever word you use. Tuning in is kind of an old-fashioned word. If you have any questions, specifically for Jessie, then just comment below and I'll make sure that she gets those. And we will talk to you guys again later. Thank you.